Apollyon's choices as heir, cruel animal abuser, seducer of innocence, leonine panther in his lair.
As I meditated one fine spring day, I thought about the lost of Estolia, those who left after Alexandros's actions. I knew that Cathaia, who left because of Apollyon, prophesied that those who left would be cursed with only a single child in any generation, until such time as they returned to Estolia. While Carolina did not know anything beyond the name of her mother, I believe that she is the first of the lost to return to Estolia. She is the daughter of Hector and Maya Beltran, the woman who keeps my soul and enables me to keep the soul of Estolia. I am certain that each of those who left Estolia will, in time, return to the fold. I can only hope that each return will be as joyous and momentous as Carolina's. Hezekiah Rolando Zakarian, Capítulo 63.
The elevator doors opened to a vast, spacious penthouse. The Othello building loomed tall, and just beyond it, the Dumaine International Tower. She was comforted to know that her brother was supposed to meet her there in just a couple of hours. She felt peace wash through her, deity was watching out for her. She wished she had a greater grasp on the teachings of Zacharias for situations like this. The lack of spiritual training for the daughters of Estolia was one of the most grievous deficiencies in her nation. Once she extricated herself from this situation, she would discuss making a change in Estolia. As much as she felt the Spirit telling her she would be safe, she also felt the gaps in her knowledge. Women needed religious instruction, too. Her abductor finally responded to her statement about marriage.
I do not plan to marry any woman who has been free with her favors.
He stood behind her, his words rolling out with a peculiar, rhythmic cadence she reluctantly found attractive.
Surely you have accepted less from your other lovers? I can be incredibly generous.
She turned her back on the view and looked at him. He was attractive, very attractive, but he was not listening to her.
I have not been free with my favors,
she said firmly.
And I have no intention of giving my virginity to any man other than the one I marry.
He looked skeptical.
You do not expect me to believe you are a virgin. You look most skilled at the intricacies of love.
She was reminded of when she auditioned for the part of the young innocent for a play to be presented by the college thespians. She was dismayed when she got the part of the femme fatale. The director of the play said to her,
Ria, you may fit the character of the innocent in this play, but you don't look like an innocent. You look like a seductress, tempting men into acts of adultery.
She learned quickly in her time at the university that many people tended to think of her in that way, that she was free with her favors, willing to steal men from other women, and sleeping with any man on their first date. It was the curse of inheriting her mother's red hair and sultry good looks.
Look,
she said.
I do not know who you are. My brothers will kill you if you take my virtue from me. You appear to wield power and wealth. My family are familiar with both of those.
She glanced over to where his driver stood by the elevator, effectively blocking any escape, even if she could get the elevator to work without the key card.
Do you intend to rape me?
She asked, lifting her chin and meeting his eyes, hoping to shock him. She was successful. His eyes widened and then he frowned, a look of distaste on his face.
I would not have to resort to rape. Every woman has a price. I must merely discover yours, and I will have you.
Something she had read in one of the ensayos came back to her.
How old are you?
She asked him. He looked startled at the question. One eyebrow rose in query before he moved to a cabinet against one wall. Extracting a bottle, he opened it and poured 2 glasses of wine. He handed her one and then answered.
I will be 30 tomorrow.
She took a sip of the golden wine. When the flavor hit her palate, she glanced down at the glass in surprise. It was the Danieli vintage, a wine she knew well, originating in Estolia. It was ironic that he was planning to use her family wine to seduce her. Another indication of his wealth, the Danieli was one of the most expensive wines one could buy. It was sold in extremely limited quantities outside of Estolia. She studied him while she sipped the wine. He was relaxed and clearly confident that he had already made his conquest. He was tall and dark and self-assured. He carried the air of power and wealth like some men carried their briefcases. She realized that, in other circumstances, he was the sort of man her brothers would instinctively gravitate towards. Thinking about her brothers made her realize she needed Nico's guidance. Perhaps this man knew her brother? Zeb spent most of his time in Spain, but when he was in the States, he was in San Francisco.
Do you know my brother Sebastiani Zakarian?
She asked. He was just taking a sip of the golden wine, but at her question, he almost choked on the liquid. He swallowed and then set his glass down and stared at her, rapping out.
What is your name?
Rhiannon Caledonia Zakarian.
She stated.
My father is Isaiah Monterey Zakarian. My 3 brothers are Leonidas, Nicodemus, and Sebastiani.
You are Estolian?
He said. She nodded.
I'm Estolian.
He turned away from her and walked over to the man standing in front of the elevator. He spoke to him rapidly. The scarred man glanced her way before stepping into the elevator and departing. She watched as her abductor stood staring at the closed elevator, while a clock somewhere in the apartment ticked loudly. Finally, he pivoted and came up to her.
Please have a seat,
He said as he gestured to a casual arrangement of colorful chairs.
With all the promises of Zacharias, with Estolia on the line, lack of faith would try all of us, we would lose